because there's certain things that they have done for translation, but Feast of Weeks is a English term. There was nothing wrong with that. But if you continue to use Feast of Weeks, you're going to be able to backtrack and see that those things are listed in the Old Testament, and you're going to see that this is based off biblical law. But by using the term Pentecost, um, the Christian people who are taught these things, they're not able to backtrack and go back to the Old Testament, because you're not going to find Pentecost in the Old Testament. So it appears and it is listed as if Pentecost is a Christian festival when you get ready to do the research, and it is some very deceiving um, things that are listed regarding that. So we're getting more and more accustomed to saying Feast of Weeks, or the Hebrew term Shavuot, which is weeks. So that we can distinguish what it is we do from what the world keeps. So we're going to begin tonight in Leviticus chapter 23, so that we can define these things.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 9. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahweh, to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Shabbat the priest shall wave it. And you shall offer that day when you wave the sheaf an he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto Yahweh. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the 4th part of an hin.
So anytime we have a feast, we will never have a feast without wine. I understand that the way that the heathen has set up, that grape juice is just as good as wine, but there's a reason why we have wine at the feast. There's a reason why we have those things. We can't lean onto our own understanding and say, well, this is just as good as that. No, this is not what it says. Go ahead.
And you shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that you have brought an offering unto your Elohim. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Shabbats shall be complete.
Right, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Now, when we go over some of these things that you run into when you look up the Greek term Pentecost, you're going to see how some of these things are worded. So it is carefully notated to get them away from biblical law. Go ahead.
Verse 16. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Shabbat shall you number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. You shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh.
These first fruits unto Yahweh, these 2 wave loaves represent the 2 houses of Israel that eventually Yahweh is going to put together and make one house. But even they are baking with leaven, and leaven is that representation of sin. So Yahweh is making the statement that he still accepts Israel even with our imperfections. Go ahead.
And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto Yah, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire of sweet savor unto Yahweh. Then you shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before Yah, with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to Yahweh for the priest. And you shall proclaim on the selfsame day, that it may be an holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations.
In all your dwellings throughout your generations, this shall be a Sabbath unto you. So we have back-to-back Sabbaths. Go ahead.
And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not make clean riddance of the corners of your field when you reap it. Neither shall you gather any gleaning of your harvest. You shall leave them unto the poor and to the stranger. I am Yahweh, your Elohim.
So even the way that Yahweh has set up our culture, even with this field being our own field, being in our possession, everything in that field does not belong to us. We are automatically set to leave a certain amount of that for the poor. So we have to consider that everything that Yahweh gives us is not automatically for our consumption. Brother, read that note there.
Christian doctrine claims that Pentecost is 50 days after Easter.
Now, the first thing you got to understand is Penta is a Greek term meaning 50. But if you notice, if you get there, it doesn't explain how you got the 50 days. It doesn't say 7 Sabbaths. See, there's certain wording that's going to always come out of that in their push for making a way to still deal with this, because at the end of the day, they want the gifts, they want the offering that comes with it, they want the ability to speak in tongues that come with it, and they want so-called the receiving of the Holy Spirit. They want all of those things, but they don't want to keep any of the days leading up to that, or to give a accurate explanation of what that day even is. Go ahead.
The holiday is also called the White Sunday or Whit Sunday, especially in the United Kingdom, where traditionally the next day, Whit Sunday,
Whit Monday,
was also a public holiday, now fixed by statute on the last Monday in May. The Monday after Pentecost is a legal holiday in many European nations. Whit Monday or Pentecost Monday, also known as Monday of the Holy Spirit.
Now, I don't know how White Sunday and Whit Sunday get that. Maybe somebody just taught. Maybe that's how the Europeans talk. You know what I'm saying? So that wit and white supposed to be the same thing. But as you keep reading, you'll understand where that's coming from. Go ahead.
Is the holiday celebrated the day after Pentecost, a movable feast in the Christian calendar. It is movable because it is determined by the date of Easter.
Another lie. Another lie. See, there really is power in a name change. This is why a whole lot of people are able to have a picture of Passover, but because they called it the Last Supper, these people will look at this picture for 20 and 30 years and never understand that that's Passover. You have people that have grown up with a picture of Passover on their wall and have never showed up to one Passover feast. Go ahead.
Whit Monday gets its English name from Whit Sunday, an English name for Pentecost, one of the 3 baptismal seasons. The origin of the name Whit Sunday is generally attributed to the white garments formerly worn by those newly baptized on this feast.
So, like I said, the more and more research we do on this Pentecost, you understand that their name change is connected to some things that they want to implement, or some things that they want to get away from. Let's go to Exodus chapter 23. And we're going to read verses 10 through 19.
And 6 years you shall sow your land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie still, that the poor of your people may eat.
So the very same concept connected to the Feast of Weeks, this very same concept that is connected to some other things, Yahweh have these things going hand in hand. Go ahead.
And what they leave the beast of the field shall eat. In like manner you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive yard. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest. that your ox and your ass may rest, and the son of your handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed.
Right. It says, in like manner shall you deal with your vineyard and with your olive yard. So in all of these things that belong to you, and all of these things that you are producing, every bit of it is not yours. We leave some for the poor. Go ahead.
And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of your mouth.
Now, if we were able to do that in this day and time, then we wouldn't be in captivity. For every last one of their months, every last one of their days, they have paganism in everything. You know, you have to back people up sometimes, because they think that they're going to be completely without any paganism here in the daughter of Babylon, and it ain't gonna happen. You're gonna have to close your eyes and not see nothing. You turn on every television program, there's some paganism in it. Now, you might not recognize the paganism to 3-4 times later. This place is inundated with paganism. So these things we're not going to be able to fully keep in captivity. But then again, it wouldn't be captivity or punishment if you can do everything that you were supposed to do in your own land. Go ahead.
Verse 14, 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when you have gathered in your labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Adonai Elohim. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not seethe a kid in his mother's milk.
All right, let's go to Leviticus chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Shabbat unto Yahweh. 6 years you shall sow your field, and 6 years you shall prune your vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the 7th year shall be a Shabbat of rest unto the land, a Shabbat for Yahweh. You shall neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard. That which grows of its own accord of your harvest you shall not reap, neither gather the grapes of your vine undressed, for it is a year of rest unto the land.
And we know that in this place of constant money making, there ain't no way they're gonna let that happen. It's gonna have to be a righteous rulership set up on earth for this to happen. Go ahead.
And the Sabbath of the land shall be meat for you, and for your servant, and for your maid, and for your hired servant, and for your stranger that sojourns with you, and for your cattle, and for the beasts that are in your land, shall all the increase thereof be meat. And you shall number 7 Shabbats of years unto you, 7 times 7 years. And the space of 7 Shabbats of years shall be unto you 49 years.
So the very same concept that we had with the Feast of Weeks, we then come and we have that same situation set up in years. So the Christian understanding cannot tell you how they got to 50. They just tell you count 50 days from such and such. And then they even told the lie of count 50 days from Easter. But then they already had set up Easter so that it would mimic Passover. Go ahead.
Then you shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land.
Now, this is a very important thing here that is still based on this same concept of the Feast of Weeks. You shall cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month. In the day of atonement shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. This is the trumpet that the Messiah is going to blow. The Jubilee trumpet that sends the children of Israel back home. Go ahead.
And you shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and you shall return every man unto his possession, and you shall return every man unto his family.
So when you understand what this Jubilee is, then every man is supposed to go back to his own land. He's supposed to go back to his own people. So you understand that the symbolism that is being made there as Yahshua returns and all of Israel has to go back to that land. But see, you got a lot of people that's saying, you know, hey, I can buy a ticket now. I'm just going to leave. See, they don't really understand what's happening here. That these things are connected to holy days. These things are connected to things that Yahshua has to do. Go ahead.
Verse 11. A jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. You shall not sow, neither reap that which grows of itself in it, nor gather the grapes in it of your vine undressed. For it is the Jubilee. It shall be holy unto you. You shall eat the increase thereof out of the field. In the year of this Jubilee, you shall return every man unto his possession. And if you sell aught of your neighbor, or buy aught of your neighbor's hand, you shall not oppress one another. According to the number of years after the Jubilee, you shall buy of your neighbor, and according unto the number of years of the fruits, he shall sell unto you. According to the multitude of years, you shall increase the price thereof, and according to the fewness of years, you shall diminish the price of it.
Right. So if it's 40 years to the Jubilee, it's going to be one price because you're going to possess that longer. If it's 10 years until the Jubilee, then that's going to be a less of a selling price because that person is only going to have that land for 10 years. So everything is then based on how far the Jubilee is, because that's how long those people are going to have that before it's returned unto the people who it really belongs to. Go ahead.
For according to the number of the years of the fruits does he sell unto you. Verse 17. You shall not therefore oppress one another, but you shall fear your Elohim, for I am Yahweh your Elohim. Wherefore you shall do my statutes and keep my judgments and do them, and you shall dwell in the land in safety. And the land shall yield her fruit, and you shall eat your fill, and dwell therein in safety. And if you shall say, what shall we eat the 7th year? Behold, we shall not sow, nor gather in our increase. Then I will command my blessing upon you in the 6th year, and it shall bring forth fruit for 3 years.
Now, this is the very same concept that Yahweh set up for the Sabbath. When the manna was being brought, and he says, I'm going to give you double the amount on the 6th day, so you don't have to go out and go looking for it on the Shabbat. When we do things the way Yahweh has set up, he's going to provide for us. Go ahead.
And you shall sow the 8th year, and eat yet of old fruit until the 9th year. Until her fruits come in, you shall eat of the old store. And the land shall not be sold forever. For the land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me. And in all the land of your possession you shall grant a redemption for the land. If your brother be waxen poor, and has sold away some of his possession, and if any of his kin come to redeem it, then shall he redeem that which his brother sold. And if the man have none to redeem it, and himself be able to redeem it, then let him count the years of the sale thereof, and restore the overplus unto the man to whom he sold it, that he may return unto his possession. But if he be not able to restore it to him, then that which is sold shall remain in the hand of him that has bought it until the year of Jubilee. And in the Jubilee it shall go out, and he shall return unto his possession.
In the Jubilee it shall go out. So we're talking about land is returned and men are returned. And when you understand that, then this goes hand in hand with the children of Israel being returned unto the land that was given unto us. But a lot of times we don't like to connect these things to biblical law, of course, because of the teaching that we received on Sunday morning. So we don't connect these things. People just like to talk about, oh, Christ is going to come back. They really don't understand what it is he's going to do when he does return. Go ahead.
Verse 29. And if a man sell a dwelling house in a walled city, then he may redeem it within a whole year after it is sold. Within a full year may he redeem it. And if it be not redeemed within the space of a full year, then the house that is in the walled city shall be established forever to him that bought it throughout his generations. It shall not go out in the Jubilee. But the house of the villages which have no wall round about them shall be counted as the fields of the country. They may be redeemed, and they shall not go out, and they shall go out in the Jubilee. Notwithstanding, the cities of the Levites and the houses of the cities of their possession may the Levites redeem at any time. And if a man purchase of the Levites, then the house that was sold and the city of his possession shall go out in the year of Jubilee. For the houses of the cities of the Levites are their possessions among the children of Israel. But the field of the suburbs of their cities may not be sold, for it is their perpetual possession.
All right. Now, when we go back and look at some of the things that happened in this land, they had a term that we used to use when we was little. Whenever somebody gave something and they wanted it back, they said, "Oh, you want them Indian gifts?" Say, "Yeah, you're an Indian giver. You gave something and you want it back." Come to figure out, this was a righteous concept. That you don't give the land forever. What they was given was, all right, you can have use of the land for a little while, but the land is ours. The land gets returned back to us. They said, "Oh man, these people are Indian givers." And here it is, we walked around and was repeating that same mess, not knowing it was some straight mess. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 36.
Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 1. Also, you son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, You mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said the Adonai Yah, because the enemy had said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession, therefore prophesy and say, Thus says the Adonai Yah, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that you might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and you are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people.
Right. We are an infamy of all people. When you turn on the television, the only thing they show is us. You would think that the only crime happens in our neighborhood, and we're the only ones doing crime. We are on every news channel in every city, in every state. They show that day in and day out. This is how you become infamous among the people. But if you go and start looking at those numbers of who in prison, you're going to find a whole lot more people. And you say, well, why I don't see none of them people on TV? Them people get locked up every day too. Go ahead.
Verse 4. Therefore, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Adonai Yah. Thus said the Adonai Yah to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate waste and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore thus said the Adonai Yah, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. Prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say unto the mountains, and to the hills, to the rivers, and to the valleys, Thus said the Adonai Yah, Behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because you have borne the shame of the heathen. Therefore thus said the Adonai Yah, I have lifted up mine hand. Surely the heathen that are about you, they shall bear their shame. But you, O mountains of Israel, you shall shoot forth your branches, and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand to come. For, behold, I am for you, and I will turn unto you, and you shall be tilled and sown. And I will multiply men upon you, all the house of Israel, even all of it. And the city shall be inhabited, and the waste shall be built.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll multiply upon you man and beast, and they shall increase and bring fruit. And I'll settle you after your old estates, and I'll do better unto you than at your beginnings. And you shall know that I am Yahweh.
He says, I will settle you after your old estates. So while people going around trying to figure out what tribe we in, going through all this tribal breakdown, Yahweh says, I'm going to settle you after your old estates. So while other people are all over in Israel warring, trying to get steal as much land as possible, Yahweh already know what part belong to you. Go ahead.
Yes, I will cause men to walk upon you, even my people Israel, and they shall possess you, and you shall be their inheritance, and you shall no more henceforth bereave them of men. Thus said the Adonai Yah, because they say unto you, you land devoureth up men, and have bereaved your nations. Therefore you shall devour men no more, neither bereave your nations any more, said the Adonai Yah. Neither will I cause men to hear in you the shame of the heathen any more, neither shall you bear the reproach of the people any more, neither shall you cause your nations to fall any more, said the Adonai Yah. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, when the house of Israel dwelt in their own land, they defiled it by their own way and by their own doings. Their way was before me as the uncleanness of a removed woman.
So it was our deeds that caused us these issues. It was our deeds that caused us to be removed from the land of Israel. This is why we have to learn all of these statutes, all of these things, so that we can understand how not to put ourselves in the same situation that we were in before. This is why the nations don't want us to have any law. They know that the same situation that was stated about Daniel. We won't find any problem with him unless we find it concerning his Elohim. So let's see if we can get him in trouble with his God. If we can get him in trouble with his God, he done. That same situation holds for all of us. Go ahead.
Wherefore I poured my fury upon them for the blood that they had shed upon the land, and for their idols wherewith they had polluted it. And I scattered them among the heathen, and they were dispersed throughout the countries, according to their way and according to their doings, I judged them. And when they entered unto the heathen, whether they went, they profaned my holy name, when they said to them, These are the people of Yah, and are gone forth out of his land.
Mm-hmm.
But I had pity for mine holy name, which the house of Israel had profaned among the heathen, whether they went.
Right. So when the people then said that we are the children of Israel, and then they look and see the things, this is why the nations are going to be so surprised when Yahweh shows the world who we are as a people. Because they have looked at the infamy of Israel every night at 5 o'clock on the news. And then Yahweh is going to show them, oh, by the way, this is Israel. I know you've been sending all this money to these people over in the land. But by the way, this is Israel. I know you've been looking at all of these things thinking that these were the children of Israel, but you see those people that you've been mistreating? That's Israel. Oh, that's going to definitely get the world's attention. Go ahead.
Ezekiel chapter 36 and verse 22. Therefore say unto the house of Israel, Thus said the Adonai Yah, I do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for mine holy name's sake, which you have profaned among the heathen, whither you went. And I'll sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the heathen then, which you have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, said the Adonai Yah, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. For I'll take you from among the heathen, and gather you out of all countries, and will bring you into your own land.
So the destination or the happiness that is proclaimed for Israel was never for us to so-called go to heaven. That was somebody else's pipe dream. That was somebody else's worship of somebody else's God. Israel's future was to be returned unto our own land. This is our paradise. That's what we're supposed to be looking forward to. Not the whole thing that we're going to float off into heaven. Go ahead.
Then will I sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean. From your filthiness and from all your idols will I cleanse you. A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I'll take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I'll give you an heart of flesh.
Right. See, that stony heart fights against everything that Yahweh tries to do with it. That heart of stone that we develop in the daughter of Babylon, that's got to go. We say, oh, we need to have these things. If you're going to survive out here in this world, that same thing is going to get you killed in that kingdom. So you're going to have to find a way to put, somewhere to put that little stony heart. Go ahead.
And I'll put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I'll be your Elohim. I will also save you from all your uncleanness, and I will call for the corn, and will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. And I'll multiply the fruit of the tree, and the increase of the field, that you shall receive no more reproach of famine among the heathen.
Right.
Then shall you remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your lawlessness and your abominations.
Right. You need to remember those things so that you don't repeat them. So that selective amnesia that we got, that we don't want to remember the things that we've done. We want to push all of those things back. No. You need to know. No. This is how some of the brothers ended up correcting the children of Israel when we got off. When Nehemiah starts setting up things, he said, wait a minute, man, didn't our fathers do this? Didn't we have problems from all these things? And y'all gonna do this again? Go ahead.
Verse 32. Not for your sakes do I this, said the Adonai Yah, be it known unto you. Be ashamed and confounded for your own ways, O house of Israel. Thus said the Adonai Yah, in the day that I shall have cleansed you from all your lawlessness, I will also cause you to dwell in the cities, and the waste shall be built, and the desolate land shall be tilled, whereas it lay desolate in the sight of all that passed by. And they shall say, this land that was desolate is become like the Garden of Eden, and the waste and desolate and ruined cities are become fenced and are inhabited. Then the heathen that are left round about you shall know that I, Yahweh, built the ruined places and plant that was desolate. And Yahweh has spoken it, and I will do it. Thus said the Adonai Yah, I will yet for this be inquired of by the house of Israel, to do it for them. I will increase them with men like a flock, as the holy flock, as the flock of Jerusalem in her solemn feasts. So shall the waste cities be filled with the flocks of men, and they shall know that I am Yahweh.
And I keep telling people that even when you look at pictures of the land of Israel, and people tell you, oh, it's beautiful, they haven't even seen beautiful yet. They think they've seen beautiful. That entire land is going to change when you get there. Let's go to our chapter 37.
It's right below.
Yeah. And start at verse 1.
The hand of Yahweh was upon me, and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh, and set me down in the midst of the valley which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And, behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Adonai Yah, you knoweth. Again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O you dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said the Adonai Yah unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. And I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. And when I beheld, lo, The sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Then said he unto me, Prophesy unto the wind, prophesy, son of man, and say to the wind, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, Come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe upon these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them. And they lived, and stood upon their feet, an exceeding great army.
So now we're talking about going through, having all of these dry bones then resurrected. And then even at this point, at verse 10, now it's talking about this resurrected group of dry bones are now standing on their feet, an exceeding great army. Go ahead.
Then he said unto me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel.
Right, and these are the things you always heard people talk about, the valley of the dry bones, but they never told you, this is the house of Israel. That is what this is really about. And then this is the resurrection of Israel. But they're not going to heaven after they get resurrected. Go ahead.
Behold, they say, Our bones are dried, and our hope is lost. We are cut off for our parts. Therefore prophesy and say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Yah, Behold, O my people, I will open your graves, and cause you to come up out of your graves, and bring you into the land of Israel.
See, this is why they couldn't keep reading this on Sunday morning. That I'm going to bring you out of your graves and you going to Israel. They said they going to heaven. Matter of fact, they said they already there before they got in the grave. Go ahead.
And you shall know that I am Yahweh, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, and shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land.
Right. See, the other people are not desiring to be in their own land because they believe that they're already in it. They said, well, we stole this stuff fair and square. This is ours. Go ahead.
Then shall you know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and performed it, saith Yahweh. The word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Moreover, you son of man, take you one stick, and write upon it, for Yehuda, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it, for Yosef, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions.
So then he's going to take this divided house of Israel that has been divided for so long, and Yahweh is going to put those two sticks together and make one complete house. We have been divided too long. Go ahead.
And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. And when the children of your people shall speak unto you, saying, Will you not show us what you meaneth by these? Say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Yah, Behold, I will take the stick of Yosef, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Yehuda, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand.
And as we read earlier, you understand why each one of these are in charge of those sticks. And they're not the firstborn. Understand what ended up taking place of why it is this way when we're going through these things. Go ahead.
And the sticks whereon you writeth shall be in your hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus said the Adonai Elohim, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land.
How many times do we have to hear that this is about us returning unto our own land? And that we're coming out of all these other countries. Even though the world has given us some people and told us that these people are the children of Israel, and they all came out of one place. And Yahweh says, I'm going to gather Israel from all over the earth because you have been spread all over the globe. But somehow we bind this story that all of Israel came out of Germany. Go ahead.
And I'll make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I'll save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I'll be their Elohim.
Mm-hmm.
And Dawid my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them.
So now we're talking about a resurrected King Dawid and him ruling in that kingdom, of course, under Yahshua at that point. But then we're also talking about the children of Israel walking in his judgments and observing his statutes. While the entire time the world has told us the law was nailed to the cross. When we talk about doing these things, this is a part of a righteous kingdom. Go ahead.
And they shall dwell in the land that I gave unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant Dawid shall be their prince forever.
And this is why he shall be their prince, because he will be under Yahshua. Go ahead.
Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I'll place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore.
Mm-hmm.
My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yes, I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yahweh, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore.
So Yahweh has to cause a lot of things to happen on the earth so that he can bring about all of these things. When we look out and see all of the things that Donald Trump is doing, all of the things that's happening across the globe, those things have to happen because there's certain situations that have to be presented before Yahweh can put things into gear to show the rest of the earth who his people really are. And the powers that be, they know these things. Understand, they own the ships that came and got you. They know you got shipped all over the earth. They know all of these things. We're not telling them something that they don't know. But they still believe that they can win against Yahweh. So Yahweh is going to have to prove to them that they're not going to win. So when you consider us even doing what we are about to do with all of these males making their appearance before Yahweh, this is also something that he's going to make the nations do, but those nations are going to have to do that unto us. They're going to have to send all of their representatives up to make an appearance before Yahweh and bring their offerings unto Israel. So the very things that we take part in are the very things that we're going to end up receiving on a much greater scale. Because when you're talking about the king of France got to come, the ruler of this country got to come, do you understand what that offering's got to be? They have to bring a percentage of their gross national product. Yahweh has written it that you're not going to do any more labor. This is the place for us to labor. This is the place for us to work on our salvation. Because when we get our land, it says the aliens shall be your vine dressers and your plowmen. You're going to have a garden, but you ain't got to work in it. Somebody else going to work in that garden. But you got to work now, though. You have to work now for your salvation and do the things that is necessary while it's available for you to do. Because ain't no do-overs after Yahshua get here. Ain't no what can I do extra credit? Ain't no extra credit. All you don't deal with now, you ain't gonna deal with. Then we have that situation where you got the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish. After everything is set up, then you have people, well, let me in. Well, no. Why don't you have any oil? So let us consider these things. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Brothers, we do have to set up one more canopy, so I'm going to give that to 10:20. It's 10 o'clock now, so 10:20 we are going to go outside and make our appearance. For all those that are watching online who wish to make their appearance at the same time that we make ours, it will be 10:20. It is 10 o'clock right now, so in 20 minutes on the dot we will be outside making our appearances before Yahweh. We will face toward the east and offer up our prayers and supplication before Yahweh, our Elohim. That's all that we're going to do for tonight. Enjoy your feast. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.